let me know.
All right, we're live.
Okay.
Okay. It's not showing it live on our end, Melissa. Never mind, it is.
It is?
It's not highlighted, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Good call the meeting to order for the TSPLOST 2023 Oversight Committee. We'll start with roll call. I'm Chair Frank Platt, Jamal Chambers.
Here.
Jen Calabria,
Here.
Andrea Jollity, Bob Bosna, Alan Jones,
Here.
Don Fest, Daryl McManus,
Here.
Jeremy Field.
Present.
Thank you. Keith, you wanna?
All right. So y'all should have gotten your minutes
You
for
did.
the package, and we've got one correction from Bob was noted under the committee action items that it should have read to replace homeowner occupier with resident or lease or not occupied. So we'll make that correction.
That's another little small thing is, roll call. Yeah, ROLE. It's just a typo. It's not that big of a deal. I knew what it meant. It's under, general business, Frank Black call, roll,
Okay.
ROLE. Okay.
Yeah.
Little bitty typo, that's all.
Well, we'll make those corrections. Anything else, anybody?
No.
Need a motion and a second.
Anybody make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion
They
to
would say-
approve with the corrections noted.
I second.
Been motion and second that we approve the minutes of April 17th, 2023 with corrections noted. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. Let's see what we got. Committee actions, TSPLOST 23, Project 19, public transit operations. Is that you?
That is me.
That be you, huh?
That is me.
Okay.
So this one, I'll tee it up and then let Ryan take some there. This is a little different, for myself and for y'all. And this is the first project we've had come forward that is for operational funding.
Mhm.
And so, a lot of times you might see some drawings in a much lengthier package, but, in this case, I'm just gonna turn it over to Ryan to talk about, introduce himself and talk about his program and what he plans to spend the money on. And you'll be asked to confirm that what he's describing to you and has listed in the attachment is in keeping, is consistent with the initial project statement is the action you're gonna be asked to look at.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. So my name is Ryan Soltenberger, I'm Director of Public Transit. I've been here since June 1 of last year. So I don't think I've met any of you before. This is the first time here. As Keith said, this is a little bit different from the projects you normally see, like no architectural drawings in this case for now, and no construction plans, that kind of thing that you normally see for projects funded through TSPLOST. To give a little bit of context, which is in the package, up until 2020, public transportation in Athens-Clarke County was funded by three sources primarily. And that would be FTA, Federal Transit Administration reimbursements. So that program is called the 5307 program. It's through the Federal Transit Administration. And that can reimburse a public transportation agency up to 50% of operating costs. So that was one of the funding sources up until 2020. Another was fare revenue. Here in Athens-Clarke County, the fare revenue was approximately $1.5 million per year. And then the third source was general funding that was approved each year during the budget process by the mayor and commission. The general funding was needed to cover the other 50% of operating expenses that the FTA reimbursements didn't cover. So that's called a local match. So we had the FTA, we had fare revenue, and then we had general funding for a local match. And then in the spring of 2020, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, public transportation became zero fare, fare free here in Athens. And at that time, the general funding was also eliminated from public transportation, primarily because there were emergency relief funds provided by the federal government, which carried us through those 2.5 years, approximately. As Keith mentioned, Project 19 for public transportation and the TSPLOST program is going to cover that 50% local match that the general fund used to cover. So we will still receive FTA reimbursements. At this time, we are still zero fare, and that's a decision that the mayor and commission would have to take on at some point if they wanted to change that to reinstate fares for public transportation. But the TSPLOST funding will provide about $3 to $3.5 million a year to cover the local match for our operating funds. I know this is a lot of words without pictures to represent it. But I do have a table on here that kind of breaks down what our projected expenditures will be each year. And Keith, this is the projected or estimated, how do you call it, projected TSPLOST funding by year.
Right.
Projected. What we think we will get from the Federal Transit Administration for the other 50%, what our total estimated funding will be projected. Again, these are reimbursements, so this is all projections. And what may be remaining each year after we cover operating expenses. So with that said, the TSPLOST will cover the operating expenses. Anything remaining is what will be used to fund capital projects. Some of you may have heard there are some plans in early development to build a couple of transfer facilities in different areas of Athens-Clarke County so we can begin to expand our service a bit more. Currently, we have one bus depot. It's the Multimodal Transit Center. It's down on Broad and Hickory. And so everything is centralized there and that goes out from there, which does in some ways limit our reach farther out into the county. So remaining TSPLOST funding each year is what will be used to fund any of those capital projects and or expand service. Okay. You know, with that said, from an operations perspective, much like many organizations, we're about 80% personnel costs. You know, another big cost for us is fuel, and that was, you know, last year, the year before, it was significant.
Yeah.
It was significant. And then benefits and other types of operating costs like that are the big ones that TSPLOST will fund in operations. So with that said, I don't think we missed a whole lot. Keith, anything you want to add to that? Any questions?
I have a question. I noticed a couple of green buses. Are you, at some point in time, are they gonna flip the whole fleet over to green technology, clean energy?
So right now, all of our buses are hybrid diesel buses. We are looking into electric heavy-duty buses, battery-powered electric buses. Right now, cars have been around a long time with batteries and electric power. Buses are a little bit new, and it changes a lot, you know, in terms of the fleet, just in terms of operating the vehicle. So for example, battery electric bus is between 12 and 15,000 pounds more than a diesel hybrid bus because the battery packs are so large, and then they're so heavy, they're so dense with material that they change that, and there's some additional wear and tear. And I think when you ask other transit agencies around, even UGA Campus Transit maybe, there may be some shortcomings in the newness of the technology that would make it difficult for the public transportation system to operate here. So our operating area is about 45 square miles. Something that's very, very important to us is our miles between road calls. And so right now we're at about one road call every 8,000 miles, which is exceptional. And the fleet maintenance team does a great job with that. Battery electric buses have a much higher rate of road calls. And it's not for serious things necessarily. It's for software resets or this isn't working. And so we need to be very mindful about how we operate those. I think ultimately, you know, whether it's a long answer, whether it's 4 years, 7, 8, 10 years down the road, I think most vehicles will be some form of clean technology like that.
If you were to go electric, Would you get the same amount of reimbursement from the state and federal, or is it more, or is it less?
It's a great, thank you for asking that question. That's a good question. So with operating costs, the reimbursement from the feds is 50%, like I said. So for capital projects, and buses can fall under capital expenditures, capital projects, the reimbursement is 80%. So that is definitely something that we're looking at. We won't have to pay the full cost. The battery electric buses, to give you a sense, pre-COVID, about $800,000 per bus. Now it's about 1.7 million. So the cost is significantly higher, but to your point, the reimbursement's big. So some of these remaining TSPLOST funds that don't cover operating costs can be used for a local match. So if a bus was, for example, $100, we could use these funds and provide $20. That's the local match. And the federal government would pay 80% of that, so $80.
This may be for Keith, but I'm sure we discussed this more during TSPLOST in general, but since this is operating instead of capital, and that is totally within the realm of the TSPLOST funding expenditures.
Right, that's, it's what was approved by the voters, and that's what the way the law's written. As far as I know, there hasn't been a successful challenge against it yet, so.
That was very
I-
diplomatic.
There are both sides of that coin that I hear people say that it's operating and it shouldn't be part of it, but I think the way the intent of the TSPLOST law was written, I've heard from enough people say that was clearly part of the intent, that it included operating expenses, so. Unless it's challenged and successfully, it's the way it was approved by the voters, so.
And this is the only one of the TSPLOST that is operational, if I'm
Yes.
remembering correctly.
Yes, and I think transit operations would probably be one of the limiting, it's one of the, what's written in as something that would allow the operational expenses. I don't think other departments have that flexibility.
Thanks.
I could be proven wrong, but I think that's my memory.
And it doesn't resolve that question entirely, but about about half of the projected TSPLOST per year will be used for operations reimbursements, where the other half will be used for capital. Yes.
Hey, this is Andrea. I'm online because I'm sick, and can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so I was looking back at my original sheet, and I have a quick question about, we have the total annual operating savings for this project at 2.2-ish million. And that looks a little bit different than what's on this sheet. Am I reading that wrong? I'm looking at the evaluation guideline form for number 19.
This was yeah, she's talking about the amount that was estimated for, that this would save the operating budget when the project was submitted.
It looked like it was like a deficit of 2.2 million, but this looks like the operating expenditures are closer to, well, on an annual basis, I guess they fluctuate, but between 6.4 and 7.7.
Well, the 6.4 and the 6.7 that's on this list that is on the table on the sheet is the total operating expenses. Part of that's covered by the reimbursement.
The FTA, that's
Right, and then, so on this spreadsheet, the second.
And if I may just add, while you're doing that, and I'm not exactly sure, I think maybe this discussion occurred before I started here, but, I think maybe any savings that, were discussed based on this project, maybe people were discussing the general fund overall, meaning.
Yeah.
Yep, so we'll get the FTA reimbursements, at 50%, up to 50%. And rather than the general fund kick in the local match dollars, TSPLOST does that. So the savings that would have occurred operationally would be to the general fund.
Right. So this second line, I don't know if you can see the cursor.
Yes, I can.
That's the annual amount that the TSPLOST project is putting forward. If you subtracted off the amount left for down at the bottom for capital, the difference there would be the amount going to operational dollars. And that's money that would have come out of the general fund. So we're exceeding what the original estimate for savings was going to be. We probably were being a little conservative in the number when the project was submitted, not knowing exactly what all of the expenses might or might not come out of the general fund. We didn't want to oversell the savings.
Sure. Okay, so that is the savings that is shown in, not on this sheet that's displayed on the screen.
Well, the savings that represent what would have come from the general fund, that there's not a row of numbers on the screen
Okay.
for that savings. You'd have to do the math to take the annual amount here that the TSPLOST program's offering to the transit operation and subtract off what they think is going to go to capital. The difference of those two numbers would have been the amount that the general fund would have kicked in for operating expenses. Well, general fund and transit fares, if there were fares being collected or reimbursements from UGA, if there's any of that coming off would have come from the general fund.
And I noticed that there's more information in this. So it's on I guess the third line down under funding projections operating, it says TSPLOST 2023 project 19, and then there's a total there at the end of that line that's 23.2 million. Our project total cost on our form was 12.745. Help me understand the difference, or where.
I think the total for, if we could just pull that up, the total for project 19 is over all years is 27 point. While we're looking this up, another way to think about the savings is if you look at fiscal year 24 operating expenditures of 6.4 million, it'd be safe to say within 10 percentage points that 50% of 6.4 million, 50% of that is what the general fund is saving. Because 50%, up to 50% will be.
Uh-oh.
Keith, y'all froze.
Oh, okay, for you too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they can hear me. Let me see if I can call him.
Okay.
Before. That's convoluted funding style for sure.
For Melissa and I, and really where I was just trying to understand the discrepancy between the numbers on from my notebook on our project sheet. You can't really see that. I wish I could be there, but I was afraid to get anybody sick. And the project total cost is 7. Oh, let me see, 19.
Sorry, just keep in mind that mayor and commission changed dollar amounts.
Okay, that's why. Thank you, Keith. I knew there was a reason. All right, so that's the 27.9 on there. Thank you.
So their total available budget after the program expenses were pulled out is 27,347,000.
All right, I'm caught up, you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, more than likely, as what Ryan is presenting is the use of the funding in this method. Once we come to, if we have capital projects that come out of the spending that are generating project concepts, those would come back to you in addition to this. But the intent of taking this as a single line item is so that every time they have to go buy tires or an engine or a transmission, they're not coming back saying, okay, here's operating dollars we're spending on this, or we gotta go buy, pay a fuel bill. So this is really intended to be a one-time comeback for, here's how the operating expenses are replacing what the general fund was doing to cover the operations of transit. But if we have a route expansion that generates a project concept, and it generally would, or we're doing the transfer facilities, Mayor Commission has already approved the use of money for the purchase of those, but we'd come back and let you know about that. Or if we do another round of bus stop improvements or things like that, that would come back to you again in addition.
And from an accountability standpoint, I want to be clear, this is a very high-level presentation of what this is about. The amount of information and data that we need to submit to the Federal Transit Administration is pretty substantial every month. And so if you wanted to see detailed expenditures of what line items cost for operating expenses and what percentage comes from the Federal Transit Administration versus what percent is coming from TSPLOST, we already submit that information to the FTA. So we get down to a very deep level of detail. Anybody wanted to have that information?
Any other questions?
So this last, well, not the very last line, the second to last line, that's what's gonna probably come back to us as individual projects.
Correct. And so that would, in almost every case, that'll be used as a local match for capital projects, which again, if you had a $1 million capital project, the local match would be 200,000 and the federal reimbursement would be 800,000 on capital. So it's a good return on an investment.
And that's for all TSPLOST projects or just transportation? Oh, man,
Transit, thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 80% match is just transit.
Yeah.
Well, we'd be doing quite well if we could get the 80%.
Well, there are some strings attached. I mean, you got it, the FTA says, here's the useful life for whatever it is, a bus, the useful life is 12 years. If you sell it before 12 years or dispose of it, the FTA is gonna say, guess what? Here's what we think the fair market value is for that asset, and you owe us 80% of that.
Oh, so you better use the whole 12 years.
Yes, and our buses, I think the average age right now is around 6.5. Our fleet's in exceptionally good shape. When it comes to things like transfer stations, it's the same thing. They prescribe a useful life and say the county, city, municipality has to keep it until it surpasses this useful life.
This doesn't necessarily have to do with this project's approval, but since we got the bus guy here, with the mall station being basically paid for, is that gonna change up your budget forecasting or the allocations for your money in the future years?
Probably the allocation. So prior to my arrival, I think there was some discussion of having 3 transfer stations around the county in the urbanized area. One of them was at the Georgia Square Mall redevelopment. That one is a funding mechanism that I don't understand really, but yes, I don't think it's going to be coming from TSPLOST funds for transit. I believe that's paid through the community benefit agreement that was written and agreed upon.
Negotiated, yeah.
Negotiated.
So do you know which direction, like, you had that amount of money that you would probably had to budget for planning for that, but now that you don't, have you allocated it elsewhere, or is it budgeting not?
We didn't have the money set aside for that. I don't think, unless Ryan did, there was never $1 set aside for the transit, for any of the transfer facilities. It was hopeful that TSPLOST 23 money would be available for matching funds, but when we started the planning effort for those, we had some dollars for design effort, but to locate sites, but not for construction.
Okay.
Yeah, and these will get into a whole, there were a couple of sites identified in addition to Georgia Square Mall, but I have a sense that there'll be as we start moving forward on the capital projects, there's gonna be a pretty significant review of site selection, what they look like, where they are, what, that relates to service expansion. So I think that when those conversations start, probably back few times.
Cause I think I remember us discussing a station over at Southeast Park. When we were in the TSPLOST committee. And on the west side, I can't remember.
Yeah, the other two locations are still inactive acquisition, so we wouldn't want to
Right.
stay where they are.
Oh, yeah,
So they
yeah.
don't drive the price up.
Oh, no.
But yeah, the Southeast-Clarke Park was certainly one that was presented. The
That
park
one failed,
itself
right?
is still, that project didn't get selected, but,
Okay,
you know, ultimately, one out in that area somewhere is being
Right.
looked at, and then, one somewhere between the mall and downtown was the other area that's being discussed, and as a halfway point, sort of, and that's still, we need to reevaluate it, but, we've gotten some appraisals on those, and, next step is the engineers and I need to get together and look and proceed, see how we want to proceed.
okay.
Aren't there some other transit-related T-Splost things from 2023 that they approved?
Yeah, there's a couple, if you, transit for East Athens neighborhood has got transit improvements. Electrify the fleet could in theory have some money in there, but most of that was intended for, the non-transit vehicles. And then North Athens transportation improvements, could have transit aspects to it. But that one, you know, everything was put into one, so we've got to come up with concepts for what all goes into that project, so, but it could have some transit improvements as part of it, or the group can decide not.
About that one.
Yeah, but that's still to be developed.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Andrea, you good?
Good.
Okay. All right, so the action that we're supposed to take is to, make a motion to approve the proposed, project concept.
The project concept, the ask is that whether or not y'all agree, the project concept is using the funding as Ryan's described, it's consistent with the project statement. That's what the motion.
Yeah, do we need do I get a motion? Can I get a motion on, committee action, number 3?
I'll make a motion that the project TSPLOST 2023 Project 19, as described in our packet, is consistent with the initial project statement, TSPLOST 2023.
Second, and we'll get a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. It's been motion and approved, and second, that we, agree upon the proposed, project concept, expenditures, we'll for the vote, all in favor,
Aye.
all opposed? Okay,
I hear that as unanimous.
it's unanimous.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome to stay, or you?
Thank you. It was nice to meet
Thank
everybody. I'm
you.
sure I'll be back here a few times for upcoming projects, but I appreciate it. Any questions, please reach out to me and let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Keith.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, looking at the monthly reports, we did include, this month, and we'll try to remember to do that going forward, just because y'all have, taken over the TSPLOST 2018 actions. I put their report in here for your benefit, just so you see what's going on and what monies are left. I try to hit a few highlights. The airport work is still ongoing. We do have a couple of buses on order from, and we ultimately got 90% match on those. The delivery on buses, the transit buses are about 18 months to get those built. It's like building a building somewhere else. I mean, Ryan and his staff, or people from his staff, they'll fly out and they'll do an inspection of the bus at 3 or 4 different times of the fabrication process. And at the end, of course, they go out and do a thorough checklist, commissioning, go over it top to bottom before they take ownership of it.
Okay.
And
We're
then
buying a $750–800 million piece of
launch it
equipment.
with a bottle of champagne.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are on order. If you didn't see, we did have a good ribbon cutting ceremony for the Firefly Trail Bridge.
I couldn't make it, but I saw it, yeah.
I was there.
Went well. Great weather for that. Great looking bridge. I think Derek and his team did a great job putting that together. A lot of years to bring that to fruition. There's some pictures on your package on that. Fallacy Road Bridge is, I understand that I've been told, I have not seen it, laid eyes on it, but I believe the new bridge is open and people are using the new bridge and they've got, you shaking your head, you know that, or you just, I didn't know.
No.
Which bridge is that?
The new Tallahassee over the railroad.
Near the overhead one, but not open.
Not open.
No, I come that way every day.
Well, I knew it was way ahead of schedule, so I was, that's why I didn't write it in.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because, I've come by there several times, and it looked like in the last couple of weeks it's a lull in the work going on there for some reason. I don't know. Sometimes you'll see one or two people there and so forth, but never, not in food. But you can see it taking shape real good though. So that's yeah, but that's right. I live less than a mile from there.
Okay. Other thing, West Broad, pedestrian improvements, which is really the West Broad, West Hancock, roundabout. Getting close to starting right-of-way acquisitions on that. Preliminary plans were recently approved by Mayor and Commission. Prince Avenue is continuing on some design efforts on that project and converting what was where we narrowed or took the 4 lanes down to, or 3 lanes down to 1 lane each direction.
Now, is that complete the way it is now?
No, we've got some of those bumper things on the road.
Yeah.
And I can't think, there's some more of those supposed to be installed to take the sharp edges off. It'd be a rounded piece on each side.
Okay.
Eventually, that's could probably come back with a concrete curb that'll separate the bike and the drive lane, but that's part of what's still being worked on in design.
I noticed when I came in to make a right, I came in to make a right turn coming east and onto oh God, what is Pulaski. It's so, what you got those I don't know what you call them, those bumper things but where you got, they're so far out, and when you're trying to make a turn, somebody, in fact, the guy turning to come opposite me almost hit me because it's the turn radius is so messed up there.
It is a much tighter turn radius intended to slow vehicles and give vehicles and bikes both a place to occupy the road. So,
yeah. Anyway, that's just.
That's it for this. We don't have this kind of report generated yet for 23. There's not a lot of stuff that has started on 23. Lexington is continuing from the 2018 into that program and working on getting user groups set up and for the 23 program to get some of those design efforts started.
Okay.
And then the expenditure report for the 2018 program is included, and when very shortly you'll start seeing that for the 23 program as well.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's all I have.
Andrea, you good?
There is.
I'm good. Thanks for your patience as I got reoriented.
Will tell you, there are just for y'all's benefit, there are some public meetings this week, Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesday is during the noon hour. And I forget if it's at the fire station or I think it's at fire station number 7, public input for the new judicial center. And then Saturday is at the library. Those are posted on the website if you're interested. They're not transportation related, but they're education interested.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. On the other business, the only other business that we just hit on the last couple of meetings was a possibility of needing a vice chair. Is that in the often keep that you?
If y'all would like to bring that up, you certainly may.
Yeah.
I
Now,
forgot to put it on the agenda, but
yeah, but that's okay. And I guess we could go by Robert's rules and just get nominations from the floor, or we could get a volunteer. How would you suggest that take place, Keith?
either way, if somebody wants to nominate somebody, or if you want to volunteer, I mean, either one. We've not had a lot of people clamoring to step up and volunteer for that.
You know,
It's usually whoever's willing, so.
I've made it to most of the meetings, and I don't anticipate, but every once in a while, that somebody should, be able to sit and, chair a meeting. So, I'll take nominations from the floor, or if somebody wants to volunteer, I don't think it's that formal that
Yeah,
we have to.
don't everybody jump.
No, yeah.
I mean, your only duties are
Quick
sitting and
shout.
doing what Frank is doing today.
You might need to volunteer somebody.
Hmm?
Well, you just spoke
You
up.
just spoke up. You just spoke up. Darryl?
I'll try it. I gotta learn anyway. Need to learn,
Okay.
need the experience.
That okay? Everybody okay with Darryl?
Nominate Darryl.
I nominate
Oh,
Darryl.
yeah, good.
Now, second and third.
Okay, Darryl. McManus, okay, well, let me put in the minutes, Keith,
Okay.
and,
Any opposed to Darryl doing it?
any opposed? No.
Because if so, you're the second volunteer.
Okay. All right, and,
Very good.
next meeting date, tentatively is July 17th, 5:15 PM, same place here.
Right here. I don't know what we'll have on the agenda that far out.
Yeah.
Mayor Commission is not having a voting meeting in July, so, I don't know of anything that would need to be.
So we don't have a meeting in June then?
Right.
Okay.
Because we'd be ahead of that.
Right, okay.
As
got
far
it.
as,
Okay, well, with that being said, motion to adjourn and be on our way. Thank you.
thank you. Melissa, you can go ahead and take us off live.
All right.